Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NHBSR's Measure What Matters webinar, Energy Management with the EPA Portfolio Manager. I'm Michelle Vesey, the Executive Director of NHBSR. It's so nice to have so many of you joining us to learn more about how you can move your efforts to reduce energy use forward. As most of you know, NHBSR is a statewide nonprofit with just under 200 business members focused on advancing sustainable business. Our programming focuses on convening, inspiring, and supporting businesses and their community stakeholders to make New Hampshire a more sustainable and prosperous state for all. Measure What Matters is the newest addition to NHBSR's programming, and we're enjoying the opportunity to engage more deeply with members to learn where we can add value to our members' sustainability efforts. Measure What Matters is a multifaceted program designed to not only help you measure your sustainability progress using tools like the concise Measure What Matters 101 survey or B-Lab's Quick Impact or Business Impact Assessment tools, but Measure What Matters is more, providing insights, expertise, and tools that you need with programming right here in New Hampshire. Today's webinar is a great example of a tool to provide you with the information you need to truly manage your energy use. I'm going to share a couple of quick logistics before introducing Emily. So the webinar will be approximately 30 minutes long. Emily's presentation will be about 15 to 20 minutes, so there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end. So all of you attending will be muted throughout the broadcast so that we don't share background noise with one another. And Molly Redfield and I will both be monitoring questions you submit. You can enter your questions throughout the webinar in the questions tab on the control panel. And as I said, we'll monitor them. The webinar is also being recorded, and a link will be provided to you in the follow-up email tomorrow, as well as a PDF of Emily's slides. So today we're happy to dive into one of the areas that challenge all of us in our businesses and personal lives, reducing our energy use. Emily Bulger is a scientist with Environmental Protection Agency. She's the Energy Star Regional Representative for Region 1. Emily's primary focus is helping communities and businesses to use Portfolio Manager to benchmark their energy use. I have to say, I used Portfolio Manager many years ago to benchmark my town's energy use, so I'm excited to hear about all of the improvements that we can take advantage of in the newer versions. So with that, Emily, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Can everyone see my screen?
We can, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, just wanted to say I just started here in April and I'm happy to be here today. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So again, I just started here and I am the regional representative for Region 1 of the EPA located in Boston. And so what is energy benchmarking? A little bit of background info. Benchmarking is the practice of comparing the measured performance of a device, process, facility, or organization to itself, its peers, or established norms with the goal of informing and motivating performance improvement. And when applied specifically to building energy use, benchmarking serves as a mechanism to measure energy performance of a single building over time relative to other similar buildings or internally to its past performance. And really, benchmarking works best when it's done consistently over a period of time. So why should you benchmark a building? So EPA found that buildings that were benchmarked reduce energy use by an average of 2.4% per year for a total savings of 7%, and buildings that started out as poor performers saved even more. So if you got a low score, then it's really time to contact your local utility and get an energy audit and see where you could be wasting energy. And if you got a 75 or higher, which I'll go into the scores on the next slide, then congrats, you can apply for Energy Star certification depending on the building type. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of background info. So an Energy Star score is from 1 to 100, and it's all based off of a 50, which is the national average for a specific building type. And if you are in the 75 to 100 range, meaning that you're 75% better than the general building type, then you are eligible to earn EPA's Energy Star certification. So here are the different property types with 1 to 100 Energy Star scores, but any building can be benchmarked, and that's important because there's a lot of building types that aren't currently Energy Star certified or are in the, potentially in the future they could be, but more importantly, Portfolio Manager can be used to benchmark, and really you just want to figure out where are you using energy and where could you save energy. And so I do want to make a note, anything with an asterisk next to it, it was Energy Star certifiable in the past, but it currently is not. And so this is because all of these scores are based off of a 2012 CBEX, or a Commercial Building Energy Consumption Survey. And in the August of 2018, if you already use the Energy Star Portfolio Manager platform, you might have noticed that there was a bit of a change in scores, and that is because there was an update based off of the most recent survey, and it's actually still in the finalization process. So there's still a couple building types, I believe it's offices and schools are still in the process of being updated, and they should be updated by the end of July. So coming soon, everything should be updated. And again, if you guys have any questions throughout this presentation, please type them in so that I can address them. Okay, so Portfolio Manager also has metrics calculator. So this takes into the account the energy consumption of your building, greenhouse gas emissions, water consumption, and again, we'll give you an Energy Star score from 1 to 100. So the first things first, you're going to want to add a property, then add building space types, enter energy consumption from your meter data, and then generate reports. So let's get into the how-to guide. So how do you get started? First things first, go to energystar.gov, and then you'll see the Portfolio Manager tab on the bottom right-hand corner of the page. Go ahead and click on that. Of course, the first thing that you're going to want to do is create a username and password. My suggestion would be for whatever type of building, if you're entering it in for a community or a business, then make sure that you have something that anyone could use if somebody needs to use it after you. So when you first log into Portfolio Manager, this is going to be the main portfolio level view. And so again, it's going to be on the My Portfolio tab. And so the first thing you're going to want to do if you're new to Portfolio Manager is add a property. So click on Add a Property. And then you're going to select your property type. So for this example, I'm going to use an office building, but just note that if you're doing a different type of building, such as a school or whatever it might be, then it's going to be a little bit of different questions. So it all kind of depends on what type of property you're entering. So select the number of buildings. Most of you will just have one building to enter in, and then select construction status. Again, most of you will be submitting existing, but if you kind of want to see where a design project would go and how you can have that Energy Star certifiable, that's something else that you can do as well. And then get started. Okay, so this is going to be the next page. So the first thing is just entering in your name and street address, country, your city, municipality, state. And I do want to note that the postal code or your zip code is very important, because based off of that, it's actually going to create your Energy Star score. So if you have the zip code wrong, then it could actually potentially have a different score. And then the year built and the gross floor area. So I've added in a different side tab where you'll see what should be included in your gross floor area and what should not be included. So you don't want to include any exterior spaces such as balconies, decks, patios. Just include things that are currently using energy. And then occupancy. Little side note, so if you have an office space and only 9 of the 10 floors are being occupied, then you would select 90% occupancy. So after you submit this, then you're going to have an additional set of questions based off of the building type. So this is for an office space. So the first question is asking about energy consumption that includes parking areas. So if you have different lights overhanging the parking area, then that would be something that you would select, and so forth. Then you'll click continue. And another additional set of questions. Now, everything that has the star behind it is going to be something that you need to know in order to get Energy Star certification. So, for example, the weekly operating hours, number of workers on main shift, number of computers, and the percent that can be cooled. And again, I just want to note that if you have, this is for an office space, so if you have a different type of building, you're going to get a different set of questions. Then add your property. Now your property is going to show up on the My Portfolio tab, and the next thing you're going to want to do is to add a meter. So you're going to want to go over to the Energy tab once you click on your building, and then add a meter. So this example for the energy use is actually a school. So this school actually has an electric meter, a solar panel meter, natural gas meter, and at some point it had a district steam meter. Then go ahead and click Get Started. So for all the different types of meters, you're going to enter in your data. And so one thing that's important is to know, is the meter still in use? So for example, the district steam meter is no longer in use for the school building, so you need to make sure you put in the dates that the meter became active and also when the meter became inactive. Also important is to check your utility bill for units, because just because the standard unit is one thing, it could be something different on your utility bill. And then create your meters. For each of the meters, you're going to then enter in a start and end date and the usage based off of your utility bill. And I entered in, I just wanted to show that these are the only parts that are needed for Energy Star certification, but if you're also interested in the total cost, then that would also be something that you'd want to enter in. And you'll do this for each of your different meters. Then click continue. And for all of your meters, just make sure these meters account for the total energy consumption for the entire building, and apply selections. Okay, the next thing I'm going to go over is reporting data. So go over to the reporting tab on the Portfolio Manager view, and I'm going to go over a couple examples. There's a lot more that you can use specifically if you're interested in it, but I'm just going to go over a couple just so you can see kind of the different options you have for reporting. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager already has pre-generated ways to show your data, but if you wanted to create a new template, that's also an option. So for the first example, we're going to show weather normalized source EUI. So click on that. And this is actually going to show all of your properties. So it's going to show all the different data for all of your properties, and you can see them all kind of compared to each other and then broken up into 2 different group types. Now, if you wanted to specifically look at one group of buildings, then you would have to go in and create a group, and then you can select your group so that you are just looking at that for the different graphics. Okay, going back to the reporting tab, going to Energy Star performance documents, I want to note that the very first one, the statement for energy performance, is what you would submit if you wanted to get Energy Star certified, but I'm just going to show the progress and goals report so you can see all the different metrics that Energy Star shows. So click on the goals and progress and goals report. and select the property that you want to see and the time frame that you would also want to see for energy, generate and download the reports. And this will show you your Energy Star score. It will also show you the percent change, so it can show you the savings that you have and the different savings in energy, and both in energy and also in the amount of money that you're saving. So again, this kind of shows you how your building has changed over time and if you're improving or if you need to improve. So all of these things are good just to keep your energy in check. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to go over is a lot of utility companies are now using this platform called web services and automated benchmarking. And so I'm going to go over, since you guys are all from New Hampshire, I'm going to go over the Eversource web services platform, but National Grid also has a platform, and a lot of utility companies are looking into coming out with different platforms. So hopefully in the future, if you don't have Eversource, all of the different utilities will have some sort of platform that makes it easier for you to get your utility data into Portfolio Manager. So go to the Contacts tab, and then you'll want to search for new contacts. Type in, so this example again is for Eversource, so type in the username Eversource, and then click Connect for Eversource Web Services. Eversource is going to require that you put in your information for your building just to verify that you are who you say you are and that you have access to this information. They need to do this just to make sure that somebody isn't requesting information that isn't theirs. So you'll go ahead and put in all of your information from your bill, send connection request, and then set up web services and data exchange. And then you're going to, this is the next tab, so select web services provider. So again, this is for Eversource. And then what property do you want to share with Eversource? So this one is Connecticut's Department of Environmental Protection. They want to share their building, and they want to provide different levels of access for each property and set permissions. And for each property, you're going to want to click the Exchange Data tab and Share Property, and give Eversource full access to all of your meters that they have, and then click yes, you want to share with Eversource. So apply selections and authorize exchange. So now Eversource, what's going to happen now is that every month, instead of you having to go in and manually enter your utility data, they're actually going to auto-populate that. So it just makes it easier, and obviously it's less work on your part in terms of keeping up with the Portfolio Manager. Okay, and so that concludes my presentation for today. This is my contact information. If you have any questions that you want answered that I might not be able to answer on this webinar, then you can always send me an email and I can get back to you. And also, Portfolio Manager's Frequently Asked Questions website is a great resource. Probably if you've had the question, somebody else has also had the question, and they have a lot of frequently asked questions on there. So again, that's a good resource for you. And specifically for the web services, I've included Eversource's support for their web services platform. So if you have anything of a question specific to that service, then you can go ahead and ask them a question via email there. And thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily. I actually have a question from my town experience. So a lot of what we tried to do was to understand what the impact of upgrades were to various buildings. And so is there a way in EPA Portfolio Manager that we can kind of like identify either a point in time or I don't know how you designate it in Portfolio Manager to kind of say like, we updated, I don't
Sure.
know, all of that. Is that something you could tell us about?
Yeah, so if you just got an update, then you can actually select the time frame so that you have it compared prior to the updates, and then compare it to the current time frame. So it probably needs about 12 months so that you can see conclusively, how much you're saving over a year's time. But you can always set the baseline year to that year so that you're comparing it before and after the updates and see the percent change in energy and also in savings in money.
Great. So that's something that you can do different baselines for different buildings?
Yes, yeah, yep. And
Awesome.
if anyone gets into the platform and needs help for specifically comparing, um, I would be happy to help you through that.
Fantastic. I'm wondering if those in attendance have any questions. Um, we can do one of two things. If you want to type your question into the question tab, we can certainly read your question there, or the other alternative is if you want to ask a question, you can just raise your hand on the control panel as well, and we can unmute you in order to ask your question. So let's just give it a moment to see if anyone has anything.
So we are getting in a question from Lisa Drake of Stonyfield, and she's asking about manufacturing buildings and if they can be benchmarked using this tool as well.
Right, that is a great question. So the building can be benchmarked, but in terms of getting Energy Star certification, you won't be able to do that. But there's a different challenge for industry. And if you want that information, I would be happy to provide that via email. And so it's called the Challenge for Industry. And basically, you are just, if you sign up for the challenge, then you're agreeing that you're going to reduce your total energy by 10%. And you can either use Portfolio Manager or a different metric. So, but you can use Portfolio Manager.
And do we have any other questions, Molly?
That is the only question we have right now. But I've got a question myself. So when you get your score, right, and I guess the golden range is 75 to 100, is that comparison of all of the respondents to who use this tool, or what is the sample, or where are you pulling that information from?
Here, so am I still sharing my screen?
You are.
Okay, let me go back. So it's actually all based off of this 2012 CBEC survey. Here we have it. So it's the Commercial Building Energy Consumption Survey. And so you're compared to all the buildings that submitted into that survey. But if you wanted to compare buildings within a certain, for example, I know New Hampshire schools had a big initiative and they wanted to kind of compare to each other and see how the different schools in New Hampshire were all. So you can compare to your own buildings on the platform as well, but the specific score is based off of this national survey, where 50 is the average.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Emily, for sharing your expertise and your insights on Portfolio Manager. I definitely think there's a lot that we can, that we all can learn from doing this. So I appreciate your willingness to share. As I mentioned earlier, the webinar is recorded, and so it will be available on our website. You'll get the link in an email tomorrow along with Emily's slides. Also, if you'd like more information about like the industry challenge, we can definitely connect with Emily and ask her to do another webinar in the near future on that as well. I do want to invite all of you in attendance to share your expertise and with the New Hampshire business community via our Just One Thing campaign. Just One Thing is a storyboard of simple initiatives around the state that concisely describe a challenge, your solution, and the impact that you've seen within one of 4 categories: environment, workplace, community, and nonprofit. And we have an independent team of judges that reviews all of those stories and selects the top 2 large and small companies finalists in each of the categories. And those finalists are lucky enough to be able to present their story in 90 seconds or less at our Sustainability Slam at LaBelle on November 7th. So we hope that all of you will get your stories in before the summer really gets going and we forget about work. You don't need to be an NHBSR member to submit a story, so please consider. So again, if you have any questions about today's presentation or have ideas for future topics, feel free to let me know. My contact will be in the email you'll get tomorrow, as well as I mentioned before, the link to the recording. So again, our thanks, Emily, for sharing your expertise with us today, and thank you all for attending. We hope that you'll join us again for a future webinar. Thank you.
Thanks.